The smell of smoke was the first thing that hit me, thick, bitter, and wrong. It wasn't the smell of a cozy bonfire or a neighbor's barbecue. No, this was sharp, chemical, and full of destruction. My orchard, the place I'd poured 10 years of sweat and heart into, was burning. I could see the orange glow from half a mile away as I drove down the gravel road, the steering wheel trembling under my grip. My hands were slick with sweat, and the roar of the flames swallowed the night. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from, because what I'm about to tell you will make you question how far arrogance can go when power is unchecked. It all started a week earlier. The town had announced a strict burn ban, no open flames, no brush fires, no exceptions. It hadn't rained in months, and the ground was dry enough to crack under your shoes. I'd even postponed trimming some of my old apple trees because I didn't want to risk a single spark. But the HOA across the ridge, the same group that had been trying to pressure me into selling my land for their luxury expansion project, seemed to think rules didn't apply to them. Their president, Karen Whitmore, a woman who dressed like she was headed to court even on Sundays, had smirked at me at the last meeting. "You can't keep this land forever, James," she'd said. "Progress doesn't wait for stubborn farmers." That night, I dismissed her words as idle arrogance. But now, standing on the edge of my burning orchard, her face flashed in my mind again. The flames crawled across the rows of apple trees, devouring years of work in minutes. I heard branches crack like bones, saw the sky turn blood red, and felt my throat close from the smoke. My boots crunched on the brittle soil as I ran toward the fence, shouting for help. But the only answer was the hungry roar of fire and the faint laughter echoing from the ridge above. And that's when I saw them, figures standing at the edge of the HOA property line, phones raised, the faint flicker of light from their screens cutting through the smoke. One of them, wearing that signature white sun hat, was unmistakable. Karen, she wasn't panicking, she wasn't calling for help, she was recording. I could barely breathe, choking on the acrid air as I yelled, "You did this. You burned my land." But she just smiled, the reflection of the flames dancing in her eyes. "Accidents happen, James," she called out sweetly. "Maybe you should have insured your little orchard better." My fists clenched so hard my nails dug into my palms. I stumbled toward the fire truck sirens in the distance, knowing it was too late. The orchard was gone. Every tree, every dream reduced to glowing ash. The firefighters worked through the night, but by dawn it was just blackened earth and silence. I gave my statement to the sheriff, but his face told me what I already feared. "Without evidence, it's arson speculation," he said softly. Karen and her HOA crew denied everything, of course. They called it a tragic wildfire. I stood there, staring at the smoldering remains, promising myself one thing. If they thought I was just going to bow my head and take it, they had no idea who they'd just lit a fire under. For the next few days, I barely slept. The smell of smoke lingered on my clothes, in my hair, even in my dreams. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the orchard burning again, heard Karen's voice echoing in my head. "Maybe you should have insured it better." Her smugness replayed like poison. I started going through my surveillance footage, hoping, praying, that one of my cameras might have caught something. Most of them had melted, the heat warping their casings beyond repair, but one, just one, on the north fence had survived. I connected it to my laptop, my fingers trembling as the footage loaded. What I saw made my stomach drop. It was grainy, but clear enough to see 3 figures carrying something that looked like fuel cans. They moved along the ridgeline, right where my property met the HOA new construction zone. One of them, blonde hair, tall posture, unmistakable, was Karen. She waved her arm, and moments later a spark flashed. The feed cut out seconds after the first burst of flame. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely think straight. I knew I had to be smart. If I confronted her without proof properly handled, she'd twist the story, just like always. So I drove straight to the sheriff's office and handed over the footage. Sheriff Dawson leaned forward, watching the video twice before muttering, "That looks bad for them." His expression hardened, but I could tell he was calculating. "You know they've got lawyers, right?" he said. "This could turn ugly. I didn't care, let it. I told him, I'm done letting them walk over me. By the next day, word had spread. The HOA had gone quiet, which only confirmed my suspicion. They knew they were caught. But just as I started to think justice might come quickly, the county fire investigator called me. "Mr. Rowe, your footage is interesting," he said slowly, "but it's not enough to prove intent. They're saying it was part of a controlled burn that got out of hand." Controlled burn. During a ban, my blood boiled. Karen had turned arson into mismanagement. She even held a press conference in front of their gates, crocodile tears streaming as she said, "Our community never meant for this tragedy. We'll be helping Mr. Rowe rebuild." The crowd clapped. Reporters nodded, and I stood in the back, invisible, the man whose life they'd just turned into a PR stunt. But I wasn't going to let them rewrite my story. That night, I met with an old friendly Torres, a fire marshal who'd served 2 tours overseas before joining the county department. He owed me a favor from years back when I'd helped his family save their farm from foreclosure. "You think they started it?" he asked quietly, leaning over the burnt satellite images. "I don't think," I said. "I know," he nodded, his jaw tightening. "Then let's find what they missed." We spent hours combing the site, measuring burn patterns, tracing the wind direction, and then Illy froze. "Here," he whispered. At the edge of the orchard, near the HOA fence, buried in the ash, was a melted badge plate. It had the HOA maintenance logo on it, and residue of fuel mixture not used for any legal burn. We bagged it. That was the night I realized their controlled burn was about to spiral into something far bigger than they ever planned. The following week, I filed a formal claim against the HOA and Karen personally. The local paper picked it up, then the regional news. Cameras started showing up at the gate of the HOA community. Karen tried to smile through interviews, but cracks were forming. The county investigator confirmed that the residue we'd found matched accelerants used in deliberate ignition, illegal under the ban. The mood in town shifted fast. People who once sided with the HOA began whispering behind their backs. Karen's perfect world was catching fire, metaphorically this time, and she knew it. One morning, I woke to the sound of trucks outside my property. It wasn't the fire department. It was the HOA private crew, trying to clean up the boundary area. I grabbed my phone and started recording. "Step off my land," I shouted. Karen appeared again, arms crossed, sunglasses on. "We're doing you a favor, James," she said coolly. "This area's a safety hazard." "Funny," I shot back. "You didn't care about safety when you lit it up." Her mask cracked for a split second. "You can't prove that," she hissed. I held up my phone and smiled. "Tell that to the news chopper circling above us." She turned, and sure enough, a helicopter was hovering, broadcasting live. The look on her face when she realized the whole town was watching. I'll never forget it. Within days, investigators raided the HOA office. They seized files, emails, and fuel purchase records. What they found was worse than even I imagined. Emails between Karen and contractors discussing accelerated clearing of my land for Phase 2 development. The flames hadn't been an accident, they were part of a plan, but karma, as it turns out, doesn't need my help to finish what it starts. A week later, a storm rolled through. Lightning struck the same ridge where the HOA mansion sat. Their overbuilt luxury homes, packed too close and poorly wired for storm grounding, caught fire like tinder. The irony was cruel and perfect. The flames didn't touch my property this time. They turned back on them. By dawn, 5 multimillion-dollar houses were reduced to rubble. I stood at the boundary line as fire crews battled the inferno, rain pouring down, my old orchard soil steaming beneath my boots. The sheriff approached me quietly. "You're clear, James. No connection to this one." I nodded, barely breathing. The smoke twisted into the sky like justice itself. The next morning, headlines read, "HOA mansions destroyed in mysterious blaze, nature strikes back." Karen disappeared from town after that. Some said she moved states, others said she couldn't face what she'd done. All I know is, the land remembers, the orchard will grow again, and sometimes, the fire knows exactly where to go.